morning. I'm Kim Harden, and I'd like to welcome you to today's webcast on what KOLs want, employing a key opinion leader-focused strategy for building win-win relationships. Our speaker today is Cameron Tu. Cameron?
Thank you very much, Kim, and welcome to everyone at today's webinar. Look forward to speaking to you. And if you have any questions throughout the webcast, there is a screen over to your right on your computer. You can go to that, type in your questions, and Kim will collect those. And at the end of the presentation, I'll be happy to answer those questions or any that you might have following the full presentation. Winning the support of key opinion leaders in today's competitive market is not enough. We have regulatory changes and a lack of internal resources that has now begun to threaten even the best-in-class KOL management groups. And savvy managers now are dedicating resources not only to building new thought leader relationships, but they also have to keep in mind how to keep the current KOLs they have engaged and motivated for the long term. And research that we have been doing over the past couple of months and even years, we've begun to find questions and concerns around how you're going to create these transparent and compliant relationships now with the Sunshine Act there, new regulatory rules that are out there, and industry pressures. And there's also new KOLs to consider. It's no longer just the key opinion leaders on the medical side. You have your payer groups and people who are key opinion leaders there that you have to think about. And what is their role, and how are you going to support them in the new healthcare environment? And what do you do with regional versus national versus global KOLs? How do you converse with them, relate to them, work with them? These are all a host of issues that you have to begin to deal with. And you're going to have to deal with it in an entirely new world. And where that comes in is that historically, pharma companies have believed that their sales and marketing teams used to provide the most value to the key opinion leaders that were out there. However, today KOLs are telling companies like yourself and companies like ours that they want to engage with and place a much higher value on the information that they receive from medical science liaisons. In fact, the KOL's perception of the value to the MSL has resulted in a shift, if you will, in the industry's approach to how KOLs are engaged and worked with. They have found that they like the MSL's strong clinical and educational backgrounds, and that they're going to talk to them about the science of the topics and not just come and talk about products. And they also respond to the level and the depth of that clinical exchange that they can have. So it's not surprising that medical affairs has begun to lead the way in sharing that responsibility for KOL management. As we've said, you have the regulatory pressures and the growing importance of that scientific objectivity that is giving medical affairs an important edge in guiding the work that's going to be taking place with the KOLs. Overall, the alignment of KOL management is at a high level, a way for your corporation to have scientific platforms that can help shape the brand and allow a clear definition of goal-driven activities. And what you're looking at here is what we call a maturity curve of how companies relate with their key opinion leaders. At the beginning, it's when you're talking about new or emerging KOL management groups or companies, you're going to be very hands-on. You're going to have people going out, working and developing these relationships, trying to distinguish between true influence and credentials with the people they're working with. You're really beginning, if you will, that courtship. It's where you're not sure what each other has to offer, but you're going to listen and be open and respectful, and you're going to be seeking those opportunities to work with new people and identify that next generation of KOLs as well as using new tools that can help streamline the work you're doing. Now, as you move along this and move maybe a little bit more from the hands-on day-to-day activities, if you will, and move from activity toward action, you're going to begin to also recognize things like the role diversity, where you are going to try to match the talents of your staff with the needs of the industry and the people that you're working with and serving. And that's going to, go along the different stages of your drugs, be it at a pre-launch all the way through to, patent expiry. As you have older drugs, they still need to have key opinion leader management going on because there's people who still care about them and are working with them and have ideas. And then as you move finally into that last piece where it really becomes more about the strategic approaches, you are beginning to truly think about, what are you doing inside your company, from a cross-functional manner, working through the work with the people as far as the refinements of the needs that are going on, as well as reviewing the work that your company is doing with the KOLs and what their needs and expectations are. And ultimately what it comes down to is that you do have to build a long-term approach. You, when you come into KOL management, are in it for the long haul if you want to be successful. You have to work with these people, go along a path with them, and you can't move away from them as you have drugs go off a patent or you decide to move away from therapies for a little while. You still have to maintain those relationships because ultimately if you're wanting to come back to them, that's the only way you're going to be able to keep and hone the trust that you probably have spent a decade or more building and forging with this group. So how can you deliver value to your KOLs in the future? Everyone knows that you're going to need your MSLs to continue supporting them, but it's also going to be imperative for your MSLs to deliver exceptional services that go beyond looking at just the different needs of the key opinion leaders that are healthcare professionals. You're also now going to begin to think about people who are on the payer side, potentially government thought leaders, as well as the clinical investigators who are so crucial at academic institutions of learning. And as you add to this the growing concerns, as we've already spoken about a bit, on compliance and legal limitations, you're going to begin to have KOLs who are wary, and you're going to need to earn their trust, and you're going to have to build these relationships over a long course of time. So whatever you and your company choose to do as far as working with key opinion leaders, you absolutely have to communicate directly and honestly with them about your expectations, and you're also going to have to ask them about their needs and the needs of those that they serve. And when you begin to think about it this way, I would ask you to take this slide and almost use it as a checklist to remind yourself, are you carefully targeting those segments? Are you becoming a discussion partner and building that trust over time? What are you doing, and how are you, at the end, being a visible stakeholder? Are you learning what their needs are and making it not just a what's in it for you motif, but are you also asking what's going to be in it for your KOLs and allowing them to work with you? So, ultimately, who is responsible for KOL management? We're going to go into this quickly, but it is a structural question, and it gets into the roles of commercial and medical affairs and how they can collaborate. But I will tell you that I believe it is important that you also think about the changing environment that we are facing today and begin to look at those external pressures. I would say that we are no longer at a 180-degree swing from where the type of relationships we're talking about used to only sit in commercial and then swung completely back over to medical affairs. I do see medical affairs as the group that is leading this, but there has to be much more collaboration going on in the organization, and that means that you have to come up with clear, transparent understandings, and you're also going to have to understand what the KOLs need and what their fears and concerns are as you're trying to work with them. So the scientific exchange that is going on between MSLs and healthcare professionals and advocates has grown richer and fuller in recent years. This has given medical affairs a greater opportunity to build credibility with its thought leaders and with others that they work with, and you're being asked to utilize your MSLs and other field-based specialists in ways that you might not have been asked to do before. One hurdle that you're going to be asked to clear while working with today's KOLs is finding that right balance of providing scientific objectivity with the requirements of working within a commercial organization. While medical affairs may want to build fences around KOLs, corporate strategy at most companies really requires some level of commercial interaction to take place to be successful. And this is the type of thing that you're going to have to think about. Companies are finding it tough to go from identifying legislative changes to interpreting their impact to building action plans to manage that change. Interpreting and acting on change requires a lot of cross-functional collaboration to exist, and that can be complicated by a multitude of variables that can exist within a hospital ecosystem or at even a university or just out in the general doctor's offices that you might have work going on. But if you can begin to put your learnings into actions, you're going to be able that it's going to be a slow but deliberate pace that's going to allow you to impact change. Because the reality is, for most of us who work in this industry or collaborate with people who are in the pharmaceutical, medical device, diagnostic industries, we tend to see people who are slow to change. So there are going to be needs that you have and you're going to have to think about, but there are going to have to be places that change is going to occur. And the prevailing restrictions that hospitals are having put in place or have on the horizon are going to impact the work that you do. Companies are going to begin scrambling to make changes. And for those companies who understand this and can begin to interpret the needs of the key opinion leaders that are out there and begin to execute and put those plans in place and then begin to execute on them, they're going to be well ahead of the game as we move toward 2014 and what I believe we all know are even more changes that are on the horizon from a regulatory standpoint.